Hello, ladies and gentlezards. Today we're going to be talking about the Beat Blaster Legendary Assault Rifle in Fortnite Save the World. This is a unique weapon, or at least a very cool weapon, from the Boombox or whatever set. It's very nice for an assault rifle. It's a crowd control roll, I would say. It has some piercing and some very cool perks on it. My build set it up to some critical damage and rating, as sacrificing a bit of pure DPS, but it is a nice trade-off. I'll throw up the base stats there for you as well. I do have a loadout that's making it a bit more powerful, or at least I was using one for my exhibition of it. We've got just some sledgehammer, assault rifle build type stuff. Just a bunch of assault damage and building up on the magazine size a bit. Nothing huge, but there are the changes for when you see this in the background, my gameplay of the weapon. It is definitely an interesting gun. I personally like it a lot. It's not the greatest in pure DPS, I would say, but it does have the power to do a lot of crowd control. It pierces, as I said earlier, just enemies though, not walls or anything like that. No AoE, or if there is any AoE, it's extremely tiny. I tried to test that out, shooting at feet, and didn't look like anything was splashing from the ground or anything like that. I've got, again, the critical build, but it does have a very nice damage per shot, headshot damage, all that stuff is good damage. One thing I would say for just commentary on the weapon is it does have a lot of ammo consumption and not a great magazine size. I even had a reload speed perk specifically because the reload was, I believe, 4 seconds, if it's at 2 right now. Slow reload with a smallish magazine. So if you may want to get mag size or reload speed on that in your loadout or whatnot. It does have a nice look to it. One gripe I do have with that is that it is large, so it may take up a bit of your screen compared to other assault rifles or SMGs, which I personally don't like, but it's not terrible, especially once you get used to it. I'm going to compare it, of all things, to a Gravedigger. It is a very unique weapon, so it's hard to find one specifically to compare it to, especially in its role. Maybe a Hydra or something like that. But Gravedigger is my other assault rifle on similar ground. It's more for a single shot, like rapid fire DPS. We've got about twice the damage, same with headshot damage, a little under, but it is a very high damage per shot, so it's kind of the trade-off there. Higher DPS base, at least with my loadout, it almost had 22 to 24, I think, when I put on damage perks instead of crit. The critical damage is actually a bit lower, although I'm not sure what my perks are on there. You're gonna look at that. Got the mag size is a lot lower, the range and durability is the same, reload time is lower, again because I cut it in half. Ammo cost is 2 instead of 1, so this means it's got 40 shots, I've got 12. And the impact is far higher because we've got our perk down here, which is stunning or knocking back enemies with this weapon causes it and nearby enemies to dance. So that won't affect Miss Monsters or bosses, but that does mean that a group of enemies will not be able to hurt you for a bit, which is very, very helpful, especially on Huskies or any of that. It is also entertaining to watch. Sadly, we don't get to see Miss Monsters like a Smasher start dancing with epic music, but I guess that's all sacrificed for balance. Makes me sad. So that is a very useful perk. It does mean that stuff like Affliction and all that, any perks from Team Perks or whatever, will not be able to stack onto this weapon, so if that's a deal breaker, that's a problem. But it does, I also set it to physical, so I wasn't able to do energy damage to all this stuff. It is definitely a wonderful weapon for crowd control. Not as much single target because of the rate of fire, but it does excel at just short to medium range DPS and crowd control. Especially if you're lining stuff up on walls or in groups. it will be able to take those out relatively quickly and stun them, keep them from doing damage. Generally, piles on your base will be stopped by the Beat Blaster. So now we're going to get to our category ratings. We've got damage, and that's out of 10. So kind of the DPS and mainly consistency of the damage. How much oomph is there to the weapon? How much can it do? Second is roll. That's out of 5. So how does it execute on its intended function? In this case, crowd control and DPS piercing, all that type of stuff. Number 3 is accuracy. That's also out of 5. How accurate is it? How easy is it to aim, especially at range? Then number 4, we've got handling or satisfaction to actually firing the weapon. How well does it work? How intuitive is it? All that type of stuff. How does it feel to use? That's also out of 5. Then for number 5, we've got efficiency, mainly of ammo consumption, which is out of 5. So we're going to start with number 1, damage. I gave it an 8 out of 10. It doesn't have the highest DPS known to man. It's not insane, but it does have very good damage, and it's very consistent with that damage, except on reloads. So that docked a point for me. It's not the greatest weapon, but it's got higher than average, I would say, DPS. Damage per shot is very high. It is great to use for some quick damage, and it mainly stood out to me because of that damage. DPS standing out. Even over the Gravedigger, it had several thousand higher DPS, just because of that high damage per shot and 2 shots at once. Then number 2, we've got roll. I gave that a 5 out of 5. Why, you may ask? It's not insane. However, it does fit into its niche really, really well, and that is some close to mid-range DPS and especially piercing. It can do crowd control very, very well. It's not a rocket launcher, but I'm not rating it as a rocket launcher. It's not a bowler, but it will be very good for some consistent just crowd control besides the reloads. Then we've got number 3, accuracy. I gave it a 4 out of 5. It does not have very much knockback at all. In knockback, I mean some chittering on the firing. It fires straight. I believe it's a hit scan. If it's not, it's very fast bullets. Generally accurate, but it does have a long range drop off. It's not the best at range. I would prefer it close to mid. You can use it at long range, but the bullets are farther apart. No real spread, but it's just harder to land them all and just keep it worthwhile firing with that damage drop off. Then we've got satisfaction handling. I gave that a 4 out of 5 as well. Very satisfying weapon to use, but it does feel underpowered sometimes, especially when you're faced with a swarm. For its crowd control, you would just rather use a rocket launcher. So it does fill its niche real well, but it's not always the best for it. And the satisfaction is pretty high. The shots feel nice, but it does not feel nice to reload constantly. So for number 5, efficiency of ammunition. The damage per shot is very high, and all that jazz. It is a good per shot value. However, the magazine size is very low, so you're going to need to reload a lot. So it could be more efficient for its mag size, but it's generally very, very good. I gave that a 4 out of 5. Another thing weighing in is that it isn't energy ammo. So with this weapon, I really expected it to be energy ammo because of the look of the bullets, of everything else, but it isn't. It is light ammo. So that was a very, very big deal maker for me because especially with that Argon assault rifle, it does burn through your shots really quick. So it's a very different story on a per shot basis if you take an SMG with energy ammo or an assault rifle with energy ammo instead of light bullets. But with the light bullets, that definitely propelled it into a very high tier for me in terms of efficiency. Isn't the be all end all per bullet damage, but it is really great. If it had an ammo cost of 1, it would have been kind of ridiculous. That would have had to be a 5 out of 5, but since it's 2, I gave it a 4 out of 5. It's a very nice weapon and efficiency for ammo consumption. Recapping a tad, that is an 8 for damage, a 5 for roll, a 4 for accuracy, a 4 for satisfaction, and a 4 for efficiency, leaving it with a 25 out of 30 score total. That beats out the Argon by 1 point, I believe, and makes it probably one of the best rated ones that I've done, if not the best rated. I'm not quite sure of the other scores because I think it's been a year or two. But it is a very high score, very good weapon overall. If you can get your hands on it, I would suggest that. It's not available to research, but if you can get your paws on it otherwise, I would definitely get a Beat Blaster. Other than that, tell me how you guys think about it, if you have a better weapon in mind, another weapon you want to see a review on, or if you disagree, if it's trash or if it's god tier, if I totally messed up on everything, or if it's just let me know. Tell me if you want to see this game, other games, anything else, and I will see you later. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.
Eyes in the sky, gazing far into the night, I raise my head.